This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Today I'm going to talk about the treatment of bronchial asthma. In the previous class, I have told about the definitions, pathophysiology, and diagnosis of asthma. Now we'll see about the treatment of asthma. Before that, we'll see the gist of the introduction. So already we have seen all this, like definition is a heterogeneous disease, chronic inflammation with the wheeze, shortness of breath, chest tightness, and with variable expiratory flow limitation. And we have a triad of airway obstruction, smooth muscle hypertrophy, and inflammation. And we have seen some phenotypes. And the diagnostic criteria, there should be variability in symptoms, in time and duration also. And there should be confirmatory test like spirometry. We have seen the procedure of spirometry, how we'll do it, the volume time graphs and the flow volume loops. And the contraindications of the test. So now we'll begin from here. So the diagnosis of asthma. In your Harrison, it is given Global Initiative of Asthma GINA guidelines 2017. But after that, 2018, 19, 20 guidelines have come. Now I will talk about 2020 guidelines, not 2017 one. But I don't know what you have to write in your exam. So I'll first tell you the approach to the diagnosis, approach to the treatment, so that this thing you can write in anything. Like it is not about 2017 or 2020. The general approach to the patient I'm telling you. So now the patient came to you with the respiratory symptoms, which are typical of asthma. We have to see if the patient having symptoms typical of asthma or not. Like we have already seen these, chest tightness, and shortness of breath, cough, and all. So if they are typical of asthma, then detailed history and examination for asthma we have to do, and history and examinative support like spirometry test we have to do. If the patient is not having typical history of asthma, then we have to advise for an alternative test, and alternative diagnosis should be confirmed. And now if the history and the investigations also suggest the diagnosis of asthma, then we have to further do the reversibility tests and all, and other supporting tests for the asthma. We have seen many tests in the previous class. So if they are also present, confirmatory, then treat for asthma, diagnose it as asthma and treat for asthma. If there are there is no such reversibility in the spirometry and diagnosis not suggestive of asthma, then look for the other tests and other diagnosis. If we do not get any diagnosis of asthma, then we have to look for the alternate diagnosis and treat for the disease. Like COPD is the most common thing which is conferring with the asthma. Okay, then if the patient is having the symptoms of asthma and reversibility is present, then start empirically on inhalational corticosteroids and short-acting bronchodilators. If the response is there, then confirm the diagnosis and continue the treatment. Okay, now we have the categories of drugs in asthma. We have 3 categories of drugs. One is controller medication, reliever medication, and add-on therapies. The controller medication is, it reduces the inflammation and controls symptoms, reduces future risk of exacerbation, and it also decreases the decline in the lung function. Okay, so the lung function will be prolonged for so much time if we are using controllers. They are taken when symptoms occur or before the exercise. Okay, the controller is, we have to take the controller daily if the patient is having symptoms or not. He can take it even though patient is not having symptoms, like before exercise and all. So controller is the thing which will maintain the patient in a regular pace. That is the controller. Now we have reliever medication. Reliever medication is something which we give on exacerbations. Patient is having early morning wheeze, suddenly he is having orthopnea or early morning wheeze, then the patient can take it. It is a reliever medication in which the patient will have relief only in that duration. That is short acting bronchodilators will give for that the reliever medication. As a controller medication, we usually give inhalational corticosteroids. Now the add-on therapies are, if the symptoms are persisting continuously, or even though on putting patient on controller and reliever medications, or even though on putting on oral corticosteroids, we have some other modifiable treatments. So those are the add-on therapies. I'll talk later about it. Now we'll see the initial controller therapy. What is the approach to the patient depending on the symptoms and time of the symptoms. Now first we have to assess the patient, confirm the diagnosis, and see if any comorbidities are there or not. Now see this symptoms less than twice a month. If the patient is having symptoms less than twice a month, then it is very mild. The disease is very mild. So now that comes under step 1 therapy. Step 1 therapy, we can give the patient treatment only when the patient needs the drug. That is twice a month he is getting the symptoms. So we can give drug only for the twice a month. That is low dose inhalational corticosteroids and formoterol. Formoterol is long acting bronchodilator. Okay. This is the latest regimen, but previously in 2017 GINA, this formoterol is not there. They used to give short-acting bronchodilators, but now this is called smart therapy. Controller and reliever both combined in one drug. This is called smart therapy, combined ICS and formoterol. This is latest. Okay. So step one is only the patient is having symptoms less than twice a month. And we can also add a reliever medication for as needed ICS formoterol, same as this. Okay, then step 2. Who comes under step 2 is symptoms twice a month or more, but less than once in a day. Those people come under step 2. So we give daily, not as needed here. This is daily inhalational corticosteroids, only inhalational corticosteroids, or as needed low dose ICS and formoterol. Okay, daily only steroid, or as needed inhalational steroid and long acting bronchodilator. And patient can also be kept on reliever medication as needed. So we have some additional drugs I told you. Those additional drugs which can act as controllers are long acting, leukotriene receptor antagonists and SABA whenever needed. This leukotriene receptor antagonists act very well on exercise induced asthma. So patient who is prone for getting symptoms during exercise or after exercise, he can take leukotriene receptor antagonist. Even though the patient is not like patient comes to us with an exacerbation, then also we can put him on oral leukotriene receptor antagonist like montelukast. Right. Okay. Then the step 3. Step 3 is symptoms most of the days or early morning. The patient is awakening with the symptoms of asthma once a week or more. Okay. Symptoms most of the days patient is having symptoms and he is waking with the symptoms once in a week or more than once in a week. They come under step 3. Step 3, we use controller medication daily, low dose ICS and LABA. Daily we have to give low dose ICS and SABA. Alternate regimen is medium dose ICS. For these patients, reliever is as needed low dose ICS formoterol for patients prescribed on maintenance and reliever therapy. Okay, same like this. Okay, now step 4. Symptoms present most of the days or waking with symptoms once a week or more. Okay, once a week or more, or lung function is deteriorating, like FEV1 values are less than 50, then they come under step 4. Whenever the patient is on step 4, from here it is called difficult to treat asthma. It is very difficult from here the patient to treat for us. So we have to put the patient on medium dose inhalational corticosteroid and LABA daily, controller medication and also reliever medication. So now the controller and reliever therapy is the same. As I told you, it is called a smart therapy. Now step 5. Step 5 is, even though we put the patient on oral corticosteroids, patient is not responding to us. Patient is requiring oral corticosteroids. Anyway, patient is continuously taking inhalational corticosteroids every day, but we need to put the patient on oral corticosteroids. They come under step 5. So we have to use high dose inhalational corticosteroid with LABA and add-on therapies. Add-on therapies like tiotropium and specific targeted therapies like anti-IgE therapy, anti-interleukin 5 and 4 therapies. Because interleukin 5 and interleukin 4 is the main pathological cell. I told you in the pathogenesis in bronchial asthma, and if it is allergic, it is mediated by IgE. So we have to give a targeted therapy for them if they come under step 5, and also oral corticosteroids we can put on them. This is for adults and adolescents with asthma. Now, similar thing we have for children also, like 6 to 11 years. Same things applies, but for step 1, we will not give controller therapy, we'll give only reliever therapy. Remaining everything is same. Like here, in the previous one, we are giving low dose corticosteroids, medium dose, high dose. But here we give same thing, but always we have to refer the child to the expert, like respiratory physician, not giving the local treatment. So the main difference for children and adults is we should not use formoterol in children. Formoterol is not indicated for children 6 to 11 years. So we give SABA most of the times, short-acting bronchodilators, and only inhalational corticosteroids without a formoterol. Okay. Now these are the inhalational corticosteroids we can use. Low dose means 200. Every drug has dose specifications of low dose, medium dose, and high dose. So we can give according to that. What are the other therapies? We have allergic immunotherapy, like sensitizing the patient to a particular allergen, giving subcutaneous doses. Then subcutaneous immunotherapy, it is called as SCIT. And we have SLIT called sublingual immunotherapy. We will give the sublingual therapy for that allergen to the patient to sensitize the patient. This is more advanced therapy now, the SLIT therapies. And we can give vaccination to avoid further infections, which will cause exacerbations. Any chronic respiratory lung disease, patient should be given vaccinations of influenza and pneumococcal vaccines. And vitamin D plays an important role. It has an anti-inflammatory effect also. It acts in many diseases like tuberculosis, bronchial asthma, COPD, bronchiectasis. It can prevent many diseases. It can be given as prophylaxis for many diseases. Then now we have bronchial thermoplasty, which is the last step for bronchial asthma, in which we will ablate the smooth muscle cells in the bronchi. Whenever the smooth muscle cells are blanched or ablated, there is no constriction of smooth muscle. The patient will be always kept in a bronchodilated state. This is an advanced therapy. Now we'll see the definition of acute exacerbation of asthma. The definition is exacerbation of asthma are episodes characterized by progressive increase in symptoms or of shortness of breath, cough, wheezing. Like patient already is having symptoms, but now he have an aggravated symptoms, or sudden occurrence of symptoms after subsiding for some time Okay, they have change in their lung function also. Progressively decrease in the lung function is present. So exacerbation may occur in pre-existing lung disease with asthma, or it can also, or the patient can first time present with exacerbation to us. So we have treatment protocol for exacerbation of asthma. The treatment protocol goes on like, first the patient, we have to give a patient written action plan. All bronchial asthma patients should be given a written action plan. What the patient should do if he gets an exacerbation. First, the patient should be treated himself at home. After treating himself at home, if the symptoms subside, he need not visit a physician. If the patient is not relieved with the treatment taken at home, then he have to go to primary care center. If the primary care physician is also not able to treat, then patient should go to acute care center or tertiary care center. Now we'll see the self-management of worsening asthma in adults and adolescents. How the self-management is done is, first the patient should assess the symptoms. That's why we have to give a written action plan. And the regular medical reviews patient should note down in the book. So all patients should increase the reliever therapy. Whenever the patient is feeling exacerbation, all patients should increase reliever therapy. So early increase in controller therapy and review the response. Patient should look for the response after 1 hour. Okay, if patient there is PEFR test, peak expiratory flow rest, every bronchial asthma patient should carry it with him or her at home. So at that time, if the patient is having PEF test less than 60% of his best and not improving within 48 hours, then continue controller and reliever therapies. Add prednisolone at home. At home, he can add prednisolone 40 to 50 mg per day and then contact doctor after getting relief of symptoms. So now the action plan is increase, first patient should increase the reliever therapy. That is low dose ICS and formoterol we are giving as reliever. He can increase the dose, increase the frequency of taking inhalational corticosteroid. Then short acting bronchodilator also patient can take number of times, more number of times in a day. Whenever the patient is having exacerbation, usually DPI, that is dry powder inhaler therapy, is not more efficient. Patient should take meter dose inhaler for during exacerbation time, because the lung capacity is decreased. Patient will have low inhalational capacity, so the patient should take meter dose inhaler at that time with spacer. And after increasing the reliever therapy, the second step is increase the controller therapy. So if the patient is taking once or twice ICS formoterol, now the patient can increase it for 4 times and continue the therapy. Okay, and add on oral corticosteroids at home, prednisolone. Now contact the doctor if the patient is not relieved. See, if the patient is taking for 5 to 7 days oral corticosteroids, patient need not be tapered on the dose. If it is less than 2 weeks or less than 1 week, tapering of oral corticosteroids is not necessary. He can stop it abruptly. So now the management of asthma, now the patient is not relieved at the home. Now he will come to primary care. At primary care, what the doctor will do? Confirm the diagnosis first. Is it asthma or not? We have to confirm the diagnosis, and the severity of exacerbation we have to assess. If the severity of exacerbation is mild to moderate, that is patient is talking in phrases, prefers to prefer sitting to lying, like patient want to sit, not in the supine position, and patient is not agitated, axillary muscles are not used, pulse is 100 to 120 beats per minute, oxygen saturation is more than 95 or 90 to 95, and PEF value is more than 50% predicted. This patient comes under mild to moderate patient. Now start therapy with short acting bronchodilators. Increase the number of doses, like repeat every 20 minutes for 1 hour. This is what we do usually in the casualty also. If the patient comes with exacerbation, give the SABA every 20 minutes for 1 hour. Then add prednisolone. If patient has not already taken at home, you can add prednisolone. And you can also give oxygen therapy if the patient is having desaturation. Now continue treatment and assess for 1 hour. If the patient is relieved within 1 hour, improving, then discharge the patient. While discharging, the patient should have pulmonary function of 60 to 80% FEV1, and oxygen saturation should be more than 90%. Then only you have to discharge the patient. Until then, you should not discharge. Now, if the patient cannot talk in phrases, he can only talk words, or the patient is using axillary muscles, increased pulse, if saturation is less than 90% or FEV1 is less than 50%, then the patient comes under severe category. And there is also life-threatening category, in which the patient comes in drowsiness or confusion with hypoxia, like decreased PaO2 levels less than 85%. So now these two patients, severe and life-threatening patients, transfer to the acute care facility, that is tertiary center. They cannot be treated in the primary care. So these severe and life-threatening patients should be transferred to the acute care facility. While patient is given inhalational corticosteroids and oral corticosteroids. Now the patient came to the acute care facility or tertiary care center. We have to assess airway, breathing, circulation. Anyway, it is an exacerbation. So, or if the patient is in drowsiness, confusion, or silent chest. Silent chest is whenever there is an increased bronchospasm, there is total bronchospasm, we cannot hear any respiratory sounds or any wheezing. That is called silent chest. In severe exacerbations, we can see that without any breath sounds or wheezing. Okay, now if the patient is not drowsy or confused, now patient can be triaged, and he can be considered as mild to moderate, depending on all previously we have seen. So continue SABA, and you have to add ipratropium bromide here. This is long-acting muscarinic receptor, LAMA. Okay. Now until now we have given bronchodilator, no, beta agonists. Now we are giving muscarinic receptor and muscarinic receptors. Okay. It is ipratropium bromide. In the tertiary care or in the acute care facility, you are adding ipratropium, and oxygen therapy and oral corticosteroid should be continued. Assess the patient lung function. If the patient is improving, then you can discharge. Consider him as moderate and plan for discharge. And if the patient is having less than 60% PEF still on treatment, then consider as severe again. Okay. In severe patients, same thing as I told you before. If the patient is having drowsiness, confusion and silent chest, then you have to admit the patient in intensive care facility. Continuously give short-acting bronchodilators, oxygen therapy, and consider for intubation. If patient is deteriorating, again, if in moderate and severe cases, patient is deteriorating, consider for intubation and treat the patient. With same continuous short-acting bronchodilators and ipratropium we can give even in the intensive care facility, but oxygen therapy is more important here. So in severe cases, in primary care center, we are increasing the we are referring to the acute care facility. After coming to acute care facility for severe cases, we have to start on ipratropium bromide, oxygen, IV corticosteroids. We have to start here, not oral one. Oral or IV we have to start. In some cases, if the patient is not responding, magnesium can also be given IV. Okay. High doses of inhalational corticosteroids can be considered. And again, we have to assess the patient further, depending on lung function and severity. This is how we approach the exacerbation. Okay. Now we have few terms called uncontrolled asthma, difficult to control asthma, and severe asthma. Okay, now the difference between uncontrolled asthma and difficult to control asthma is very important to know. Both are not same. Uncontrolled asthma is something like patient is having very poor symptoms, even though on medication. He is frequently awakening during the night time or in the early morning. Patient is having symptoms even though he is on regular medication, even on reliever therapy or control therapy, everything. And frequent exacerbations, that is more than 2 per year, requiring oral corticosteroids and frequent hospitalization. This is uncontrolled asthma. For this, we cannot do anything with the therapies like inhalational corticosteroids, oral corticosteroids. Patient will not respond for anything. They come under step 5. Now we give targeted therapy like IgE. We'll see the treatment approach then. Now we have difficult to treat asthma. Difficult to treat asthma also comes under step 4 and step 5. The difference between uncontrolled and difficult to control asthma is in difficult to control asthma patients, they have some modifiable factors. Like patient may be using inhaler technique incorrectly, incorrect inhaler technique, poor adherence to the drug, or he's continuing smoking with or having some comorbidities like diabetes or cardiovascular diseases, or we have not diagnosed the patient correctly like bronchial asthma. Maybe he is having some other disease also. So if we correct these factors, patient will respond to the therapy. They are called difficult to treat asthma, but uncontrolled asthma, patient will not respond even though if they are corrected on inhalational therapy and everything. Difficult to control asthma patients are whoever the patient not correctly using inhalers, who are having not compliant with the drugs, those are called difficult to control asthma. Now we have severe asthma. It is also a subtype of difficult to control asthma, who are having maximum symptoms even though patient is kept on maximum inhalational therapy and oral corticosteroids. So now we see the approach. This is the last one I'm telling you. We have 7 to 8 steps in the approach of the difficult to control asthma and uncontrolled asthma. Now we see the first one, to confirm the diagnosis. Second, look for any contributing factors like any incorrect inhalational therapy use or non-compliant with the drugs, overuse of drugs, or he's having some modifiable factors like smoking, obesity, everything we have to, or patient is using some beta blockers or NSAIDs, then also they will not respond to the therapy. First confirm that. Then optimize the management. Give the patient asthma education. Consider for increasing in the doses, consider for correcting the inhalational techniques, add some other drugs, non-biological drugs and biological drugs. So then you have to review the response after 3 to 6 months after increasing the therapy, giving the proper therapy. If the patient is responding, continue the therapy. Okay. If the patient is responding, continue the therapy. Then after fourth step, we'll see the fifth step is continue the therapy. Patient is responding. If patient is not responding, look for the other type of inflammation, type 2 inflammation. Type 2 inflammation is in which it is eosinophilic. We have high counts of eosinophils, that is blood eosinophils, peripheral eosinophils more than 150 per microliter, and FeNO is a fractional exhalation of nitric oxide. Eosinophil will induce nitric oxide production. Whenever the nitric oxide production is increased, we will know that the inflammation is due to eosinophils. Then we have to assess the sputum eosinophil counts, and we have to look for need for oral corticosteroids in these patients. So investigation should be done, and also psychological support should be given to the patient in the severe asthma phenotypes in this condition. Fifth one. And now after seeing all that, if there is type 2 inflammation, then 6A, consider for non-biological treatments. If the patient is having type 2 inflammation, consider for non-biological treatments, add-on therapies like immunotherapy, everything. Increased dose of ICS, increased dose of oral corticosteroids, tiotropium. We have to try all that. Actually, eosinophilic inflammation will respond good for steroids. As I told you in the pathophysiology, they respond good with steroids. So consider for increasing inhalational corticosteroid doses if it is type 2 inflammation. If the patient is affordable with the therapy, okay, we can give. If the patient is not affordable with the therapy, we cannot go to the further management. We have to stop here. If the patient is affordable, then we have to consider for adding biological type 2 therapies like targeted therapies, IgE, anti-IgE therapy, anti-interleukin 5 therapy, anti-interleukin 4 therapies. If it is type 2 inflammation, if the patient is responding, the problem with this targeted therapies is they have to be given for long time, like 6 months to 1 year. They have to be given. We have to assess the patient only after giving 6 months of treatment. 6 months to 1 year. After giving 6 months of treatment only, we can assess the patient if he is responding or not. Before 6 months, we cannot assess the patient. If the patient is responding good, then taper the treatment and continue with the inhalational steroids. If patient is not responding, then switch to other drugs. Stop add-on therapies, stop targeted therapies, and switch to other therapies. Now we'll review the response, if the symptoms are controlled or not. Okay, if there is no good response, stop the biologicals and induce sputum. Consider for diagnosing one more time. Maybe patient is not, maybe patient is having some ABPA or something like that. We have to go for high resolution CT scan like HRCT and consider the patient on putting antibiotics like azithromycin, macrolides, okay, and alternate therapies like bronchial thermoplasty. Now we have to do that if the patient is not responding with all the therapies. After reviewing the response, the 8th step, continue to optimize management. Inhalational therapy should not be stopped in any of the stages. Assess for comorbid management also. Adherence to the therapy is very important. Always a written action plan is the key. Okay, this is how we approach the severe asthma or difficult to treat asthma. Now we have non-pharmacological management of asthma. While giving drugs, we can also implement these things like cessation of smoking, avoidance of occupational exposure or avoidance of inhalation, indoor and outdoor pollutions. If the patient is having any drug-induced asthma, stop that medication. If patient is having any allergen-induced asthma, avoid allergens. Avoid food and chemicals which aggravate symptoms. and patient should be on regular physical activity, should take healthy diet with antioxidants and reduce weight. Obesity is also one of the risk factor for asthma. Okay, then breathing exercise should be done. Patients should have emotional balance. Some patients will get emotion-induced asthma is some kind is there. Whenever the patient is more depressed or more happy, whenever the patient is laughing more, he will get symptoms of asthma. Okay, this is the final thing. Thank you.